Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second ever episode of the Rule of Three podcast, of course, taken from inspiration from the Sith Rule of Two. There are, of course, three of us, so Rule of Three. I'm here today with Evan, one of my co-hosts.
What's up, you guys?
And then our other co-host is Star Wars Legacy.
Hello, guys. Hey.
And today we have some stuff to talk about. Obviously, we have some catching up to do since the last episode, which we released right before the Last Jedi trailer, so of course it has been quite a while. Apologies for that, but we're hoping to get back on a weekly schedule and release one of these a week. So we have some news to talk about first off, and then we have some questions that we asked on Twitter. And for future podcasts, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Stupendous Wave, and if you want to put just hashtag RO3, we can collect those for future podcasts and answer some of your questions. So let's go ahead and start with some of the news that we have for Star Wars. Evan, if you want to bring up a few of the topics.
Yeah, so one of the biggest news that literally just dropped last week is the departure of Lord and Miller from the Han Solo project. They had 3 weeks of filming left, and Lucasfilm decided to fire them. So let's just talk about that. What do we think about the project? Is it doomed? Is there hope for the project, or do we even want the project to continue on? What do you guys think?
I can go ahead first. I think that I actually did not know that there was only 3 weeks left. That's pretty worrisome, to be completely honest. I mean, Han Solo movie, I don't think I'm going to be crushed if this movie isn't great. In fact, I know I won't be. I love Han Solo as a character, but I think that he is kind of like the Hulk. I don't know if I'm not giving Han Solo enough credit. But I think that he works really well more in an ensemble cast where he has people to bounce off of and work with. And of course, there will be those characters in the Han Solo movie. I'm just not sure how he's going to act as the lead. And there's some dialogue exchanges in the first Star Wars movie that really concern me that we're not going to get some of the parts of Star Wars that I really love. And that's not something that it's a big problem necessarily, but he says that there's nothing, I forget the exact dialogue, but Han Solo says that he's been across the galaxy basically, and that he hasn't seen anything that would make him believe in some higher force, and something like that. It's just kind of concerning because that's my favorite part of Star Wars. I don't know about you guys, and I know Star Wars is really vast, but that whole mystical part and the Jedi and the Sith and the people that use the Force are my favorite part of Star Wars. And we even had that in Rogue One, surprisingly. It was a pretty big plot point with Chirrut and then, of course, Darth Vader. But I think that just starting off not having that is something that I'm kind of disappointed in. As far as the directors leaving, I don't think that it's going to destroy the movie necessarily. Apparently the script is just magnificent and one of the best scripts ever. But I don't know. It's concerning, but at the same time, I don't think it's doomed. But also, I don't care as much as I would for an installment of episode 9 of the main story, or even another type of story that I would really care about. For example, if they announced an Obi-Wan movie and this happened, it would concern me. But this isn't really a movie that I care super deeply about, if that makes sense. So those are kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've never really been invested in the idea of a Han Solo standalone film from the beginning, in all honesty. And regarding the concerning issue of how well this film will turn out, I'm less worrisome now because we've got Ron Howard that's just come on. He's been pretty heavily involved with Star Wars before, and he has never directed a Star Wars film. But he was considered by Lucas to direct some of the prequels, so he has been involved before, which is always reassuring.
Wow, I actually didn't know that. And I mean, Han Solo, his origin, if you want to call it that, his backstory in Legends, it's pretty interesting. It's compelling. He started out, I don't really think this is a spoiler since we don't know much about the film at all, but he started out as an Imperial. Han Solo was, I believe he was a pilot, a TIE fighter pilot.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I think so too, yep.
So I think that that's an interesting story, and I wouldn't be surprised if we started off this Han Solo movie and he's an Imperial. And I think that that's an interesting way to take it, but at the same time, I mean, I would much rather have a different type of anthology film. This at the same time, like when they announced the Han Solo film, and I could be completely wrong, but I feel like Disney, after they bought it, or Lucasfilm, they didn't really have like a great feeler for what true fans of the Star Wars franchise wanted, because I'm sure that there are fans out there that want this Han Solo movie, but it seems more for like a general audience thing. It's not like a film that really hardcore Star Wars fans would be screaming for, like something from the Old Republic or something like that. And this has been brought up before in other places, but they seem like, at least with these first few movies, they're compelled to make such a grand, wide universe really small, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Rogue One had a lot of supporting characters from the original trilogy, Leia, Mon Mothma, Vader.
That was one of my complaints with Rogue One as well, too, because they flaunted it as some kind of big standalone, and the biggest part of the movie, arguably, people came out talking about Darth Vader, who we've already seen, and there's countless other cameos that we've seen in the movie, so it wasn't really a true standalone. And discussing the Han Solo project, Lawrence Kasdan wanted this as soon as Disney bought the rights back for Star Wars. Like, this is his passion project. So this is why he had so much issues with Lord and Miller, because they were veering away from the script that we hear is so great. So since they were veering away from it, and he is so passionate about this, like, he also wrote this with his son. So I can understand why he was kind of upset at Lord and Miller for improvisation and going away from the script. And that's one of the main reasons we're getting it now. I would doubt Lucasfilm as a whole thought a lot of fans really wanted it, but since they had Kasdan, they're like, let's just do it. It'll at least be a good film anyways. And the best part about this, I think, is if we get this Han Solo film right, and if it's a success, just like Rogue One, then possibly we can go veer into more riskier projects, like you guys mentioned with the Old Republic. Like I really want an Obi-Wan Kenobi, even though it's still somebody we know, it'd still be kind of different, because it'll be somebody standing alone on Tatooine, etc. So hopefully if we have success early on with these standalones, then we can move on to more riskier standalones like Old Republic.
Yeah, I would venture a guess to say that this next anthology film will be Mystic-based, if that makes sense. Because the other two anthology films are not. And that is my favorite part of the Star Wars franchise, is the Mystic stuff. And by that, I mean like Force users and stuff to do with the Force. I bet that there will be Force users in the third anthology film, because I don't think that we're going to see any in the Han Solo movie, just because of dialogue from Han in A New Hope. Like, he talks like he hasn't seen this stuff before.
Yeah, they got to keep it consistent.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, especially since that's dialogue in A New Hope, I can see it like being a part of Legends, that this is his introduction. But it's like really a pretty significant part of A New Hope that he's experiencing a lot of this, and that he's just this cynic, which I love. I love the Han Solo progression from A New Hope all the way to The Force Awakens. I mean, I believe we talked about this before, but just to go off topic a little bit, but just hearing Han Solo in The Force Awakens saying that everything was true, that was just really cool.
Yeah. Having watched The Force Awakens again last night, it's so fresh in my mind. I love that scene. It's also another reason why Lawrence Kasdan should be trusted with the Han Solo project, because he wrote Han in The Force Awakens, which I thought Han was truly Han. He was a great character, great dialogue, and he had a great send-off. So I trust Lawrence Kasdan.
Yes, and I totally get the whole improvisation thing, and I believe, I forget exactly where I said it or heard it, but someone said that they were making a good film, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, but it wasn't a Star Wars film, if that makes sense. Like, they were making a good film, but
I've heard that before too, which brings me to like one of the kind of issues, kind of good things about Lucasfilm, because one of the hardships about creating these anthologies is how to balance, like, they want to create these unique and different movies from the Star Wars saga films, but at the same time they have to incorporate it being a Star Wars movie, which is very hard, because like they wanted to bring in Lord and Miller to create this unique, maybe comedic Western kind of Star Wars movie, but it also has to be like a Star Wars tone and Star Wars feel. And I think Lord and Miller are veering away from that. So it's one of the things they got to think about going forward with these anthology films, is how to balance a unique take while making it still a Star Wars movie.
Exactly. And I just kind of want to make an audible for this podcast real quick, but I just kind of thought of this question and I want to hear your opinion on it. But do you think one day, potentially, we could get more than one Star Wars film a year? And would you want that or would you not want that? Like, I just want to hear your thoughts on that really quickly.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility, but yeah, I would not want it to happen. It's just a bit too much. I think it's too much anyways.
Yeah, I think if they continue doing 10, 11, and 12 right after Episode 9, then they will have to do 2 Star Wars movies a year. But if they take a break after Episode 9, say 3 to 5 year break from the saga films, then I think they'll just continue to do 1 movie a year, and those movies will be standalone movies until they until they continue the saga films again. Because I think 2 films would be a lot a year too.
I agree with that. I mean, I just say that because it's like Marvel, and there's a big comparison to be drawn with Marvel and Star Wars, because they're similar in a lot of ways, but Marvel has gotten to the point where they're able to do that. And I bring this up because I do think that Star Wars does have the potential to be like that, if not even bigger. But
Definitely.
But like, it's just weird because every Marvel film does not have like a woven thread and feeling with it that every Star Wars film has or should have. Like that Star Wars feeling with it that I think should only come once a year, in my opinion, like to really capture that Star Wars feeling with the music, and it should be like a big event. And I'm not saying Marvel films aren't an event, but at the same time, a Marvel film isn't something that I think people so much anymore with every single film are like really, really, really anticipating and keeping track of every little piece. Like, I feel like Star Wars should be like this huge event thing. Could they do more than 1 movie a year? Absolutely. I think they could. They would have to be really different. I think that it's possible, but I would not want that because I love the build-up. I just personally love the build-up. And I love that there's like a whole year almost, at least for me. And I mean, I may come off sounding like pretty sorry when I say this, but it's like my whole year just like seems to culminate with the release of this movie, of a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, absolutely the same here for me.
Yeah, me too. I like the build-up. I like the hype. I like the theories we can generate every year. And another thing that can lead to like more than 2 movies a year is if they start creating possibly like trilogies for these anthologies, which I don't think is going to happen. But if they wanted to do like a sequel to Han Solo, and if they wanted to do a sequel to one of the anthology films, then there would have to be kind of like 2 movies a year to fit all that. But I just don't think that will happen. So I don't think in the near future we're going to see 2 films a year.
I'm going to say that we will, before this whole thing is ended, we will see a sequel to one of the anthology films. I'm going to, like, that's a bold prediction, but I'm going to say that we will, because they have the Star Wars movies planned out to 2030, right? I believe so.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
2030. So in my mind, it's like, there has to be a sequel to an anthology in there somewhere, right? I mean, besides just the saga films, there has to be like a sequel somewhere. And I believe that they will go back into the Old Republic sometime. I just think that the fan outcry for that is just so intense. And I know I'm going to be in the minority with this, but I think that the Old Republic and stuff like that, they belong on the big screen. I don't want a Netflix series. I don't want a Star Wars Netflix series that isn't animation. I know that I'm going to be in the minority with that, but I
have to agree with you there too, because I originally wanted it to be on Netflix, like this gritty thing, but you're right, like the Old Republic, it has to be done in a spectacular fashion. It's more bigger, it's more spectacle with the Old Republic that I want to see on the big screen that you can't capture in like 12 episodes on Netflix.
Precisely, and I don't know if you remember the trailers they made, those amazing trailers, but every person who I've seen watch those trailers, they always want a movie. They just said, they're always like, why isn't this a movie?
They want to do. It's not a movie because it requires. I don't know. It requires like to fully understand it. They like the way it looks, but if you ask anyone to explain what is happening in any of those things, no one.
They just don't understand.
They don't understand a thing. And to be fair, it's crazy convoluted in almost every single one of them. But of the cinematics, but I think one day we're gonna get an Old Republic series, and that's the reason with the whole anthology sequel thing. I believe that if we get an Old Republic series one day, it's gonna be multiple installments and it's gonna be connected like that. But I just think that that's the one piece that we're still missing. If we're gonna compare Marvel to Star Wars, like I made earlier in the podcast, we're still totally in phase 1. Like, absolutely. We have two films released. Yeah. After we get, 5 films under our belt, after episode 9, I think that we're going to start to see them taking risks. And that's when I'm going to get even more excited for Star Wars. And I mean, the whole risk thing is something else I want to talk about. People claim that Rogue One, they didn't take any risks. And I believe with the concept of Rogue One, that's true. But they killed off every single lead in the end of that movie, and that's risky. It was
very risky. Yeah, considering it's the first one, they killed off everyone. There was, you had the Wills. It was actually quite, it was quite hard to understand if you're not invested in Star Wars. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I think it was risky to a degree. They killed off all the characters, but I just feel like they marketed it as this new standalone anthology. And when you go finally to see it, there's a lot of references to the original trilogy. You have Bail, you have your all your original trilogy.
Come on. Bail is not a reference to the original trilogy.
He's, you know what I mean? He's in the original trilogy. I mean, you have.
No, he's not.
I'm talking about that one guy. What's it called? Jimmy Smith. Yeah, Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, he's in the prequels, but I mean, what Star Wars, what casual moviegoer is going to recognize Bail Organa?
I mean, it's still within the universe. It's still a reference to something we've seen before.
I can understand the criticisms for C-3PO and R2-D2, but not the one for Bail Organa or Mon Mothma. I just think that that's connecting the universe. I don't think that that's a big old in-your-face reference.
Which isn't a problem, but it's still not a full standalone movie because technically it's a prequel to A New Hope. It connects right into A New Hope, so it still wasn't a full standalone kind of movie.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I can see. Yeah, completely. I also I kind of disagree with that because I like the parts where it's woven together and it all feels like Star Wars. You want a whole story with nothing from the other stuff, right? You just want it in the same universe but no references to anything else.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, wow. I mean,
and you can still do that and create a good Star Wars film. I'm fully for an Obi-Wan movie. I kind of sound like a hypocrite now, but I want an Obi-Wan movie. But even an Obi-Wan movie will be so disconnected because he's in himself in a kind of purgatory on Tatooine where he's alone. There won't be a ton of references, even though he'll be looking over Luke and something like that. But that's just my opinion.
I completely understand what you're saying, and it's not it just comes down to a taste thing. It's you're not right or wrong for liking that. My favorite parts of the anthologies are probably some of those connecting parts. If you go back when Bail Organa was spotted in the behind the scenes reel, I got so excited, and never in a million years did I expect to be just so excited for Bail Organa, Jimmy Smits, to be in one of these movies. But for me, those connecting weaves, the parts that connect it and make it all feel like it's the same universe, that's my favorite parts of the film.
Yeah, same here as well. The reference to Obi-Wan in when Bail is talking to Mon Mothma. That's one of my favorite parts. It makes everything feel more real and just more real and more woven, which is a nice feeling. You watch it and then you go to watch A New Hope, and it's a really nice transition.
Exactly. I really like Rogue One. I like it more than The Force Awakens. I know I want to do a whole podcast, like a whole debate thing, like The Force Awakens versus Rogue One, because I know Evan is very passionate about.
Your opinion is wrong, but that's
but I like those connecting pieces. What I'm talking about more separating it is like the time period. And I briefly want to point this out. I think that the C-3PO R2-D2 cameo in Rogue One is atrocious.
It's awful.
It's the worst part of the movie, I think, because it just like sucks you completely out of it. Like me, like it just took me out of it in an instant.
Well, there's a lot of worse parts of the movie. Didn't what's it called? Those two bar guys from A New Hope. I forget their names.
That's
right
such
now.
an obscure reference, though. That's so obscure.
They came out of nowhere. They're so stupid. And then of course Borgullet.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, Borgullet is way worse, actually.
But hey, Rogue One's better than The Force Awakens. Yeah.
Lies. Deception. Yeah, I mean that's the. You're right. That's the worst part of the movie. I can't debate that. The C-3PO R2-D2 thing for me though took me out of it. That's like one of the things. But like the smaller stuff that feels like it fits. Like if they had made a reason for R2 and C-3PO to be there. I mean, like obviously they're there with Bale, but like a more connected reason where it made sense. Like with Bail Organa to be there, and because he had a role to play there with the rebellion. That's the parts that I really like. And I think that Darth Vader was handled exceptionally well in Rogue One. Just like, that's just what I think. I just think he was handled so well.
Yeah, Vader was handled really well. Like, for example, when the Devastator arrives to the Battle of Scarif, like, that feels natural because in order for the story to move forward, Vader has to be there, so it works well.
Exactly. And if the characters, have like a role, it's like I like it when Star Wars seems like it's playing out how it would naturally. I don't want to say like in the real world because that's kind of a crazy statement to make, but I like when it plays out naturally and it's not like there's wink wink moments to us, because the reason we saw C-3PO and R2-D2 is so everyone would clap at the end, and that's something that was made and like shot for the audience. It wasn't part of the story. And something that I love about Star Wars and a lot of Star Wars in general is it feels very natural in a lot of ways. People do not always have happy endings. Stuff goes wrong. People turn bad. People turn good. People get hurt. That's just what I love about Star Wars, is it's very natural and it's unpredictable, and anyone could go really at almost any moment, and that's something.
Exactly. That's why it's so relatable and so good.
It feels real. It feels like a real universe, and those wink wink moments take me out of it.
Yeah, same here. And I get that a bit with the animated series. Like my brother he was watching Rebels for the first time on his flight back, and he said to me, I asked him, what do you think? And he said, why aren't they dead? It's like he said to me, if this was if these characters would have gone through what they went through, well, if this was a movie, they'd be so dead. And that's kind of why I can't relate to Rebels as much as, let's say, the films.
We have to have another episode about Rebels, because Evan will scream and it will be awesome.
Yeah. I was gonna say so. I'll save it for another day.
Okay, you sure? You don't want to give like a little hint?
Real quick, the Rebels part, I mean, that's just a consequence of it being a cartoon. You get the same stuff on the Clone Wars. It's just these main characters aren't going to die in like one episode.
I would disagree. I don't think we get that with the Clone Wars. Not really.
Numerous times there's thousands of droids hitting these Jedi and other clone troopers, and a lot of the main characters survive, even though they're supposed to live.
By main characters, you mean the people with lightsabers deflecting the blasters?
No, yes, but you know what I mean. There's tons of other, like Commander Cody, Rex. You know these characters live in the Revenge of the Sith, so you have to create scenarios so how they survive in the Clone Wars. And there's a lot of stuff where these characters should have died, but I know he's going to survive, so there's no stakes there, etc.
I can kind of see that, but like I think the Clone Wars had like a ton of unexpected deaths. The Clone Wars has teeth. and I think Rebels like lacks the teeth in a lot of places. Like I was watching the Clone Wars the other day, and it's like on the slave arc, if you remember, where like Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka go to the planet with the slaves where the Twi'leks have been enslaved, if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
Great,
But, like,
great episode.
One of the Twi'leks commits suicide. Like, they jump off the building. Like, can you picture anything like that
it's
really
pretty
in
dark.
Rebels? I can only picture like one scene. There's a double decapitation in Rebels, but I think that there is. The Inquisitor, like, that was awesome. But I don't know. It's a discussion for another day, but I just think the Clone Wars is just like 2 or 3 pegs above Rebels. Rebels has fantastic episodes, and episodes where I'm like, why isn't this here all of the time? And it has like a character with Thrawn who is just so perfect, but at the same time, it's like the plot keeps our characters safe when Thrawn should just completely dismantle them and whatever.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
I think
That's the
Rebels,
worst.
there's no in between for me when it comes with Rebels. I am either absolutely adoring every little piece that I am getting from Rebels, or I'm just bored.
Yeah, absolutely same here for me. It's either you either get a really good episode, but like because usually the story leads up to the good episode, so they have to make these in between filler episodes to compensate, and that's where it kind of goes bad.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's so weird, too, because I feel like half of the characters in Rebels are so strong, and the other half are just so weak. Like, it's strange. I feel like just Maul is amazing in Rebels, and Thrawn is everything as far as his mannerisms, and the character of Thrawn himself. He's everything I could have asked for Thrawn. Like, that's Thrawn. But at the same time, it's like there's characters like, I don't know, like Sabine or like Zeb. And I know Sabine had a lot of stuff to do this like last season.
Don't talk about Sabine.
Dude, I
One of
feel
the best
like I
characters
don't
in the
like
show.
Sabine is like
A great character, I know.
I don't know. She has like one moment that I really like her in. That's it.
I understand your complaints, and I think it was even an internal thing at Lucasfilm where the Clone Wars was so dark, and they wanted to make Rebels more of a light-hearted show. I think internally that's one of their objectives, was to create more of a light-hearted show compared to the Clone Wars, even though you could argue the Empire era might be darker.
Yeah,
than the
that's
Clone Wars era.
that's the thing. This should be darker, dude. This should be way darker.
But agreed, but you still want to create. This show it's still for everybody, but you still want to shift your tone away from the Clone Wars, even because the Clone Wars was so dark. They went to the decision to have the Clone Wars be so dark, so they're like, let's create a decision where we create the tone for Rebels to be more lighthearted and have some dark moments too. The what's it called? The season 2 finale was pretty dark. Maul did some dark stuff. Season 3 had some dark moments too. But they also want to create light moments for these characters. These characters aren't inherently dark like some of the characters you see in the Clone Wars.
This goes back to like the whole Rogue One thing. It doesn't always feel natural. It doesn't always feel like Star Wars. Like, because of that.
I can make that same argument for even the prequels within the own film. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. The Battle of Naboo doesn't feel like it takes place in the same universe where we get the Battle of Hoth.
I would say it does. I mean, like,
I disagree.
and also it's a
too.
time period thing. Like, the time period of the prequels is different than that of the original trilogy and slightly before, which is explored. And we know what that time period should look like. And we get glimpses of it in Rebels, like with Luminara Unduli's ultimate fate. That's a dark moment. But it's just like we get little breadcrumbs of what should be. This is called the Dark Times. Like, it should be way worse. It shouldn't be like this out of universe like compromise that they've made it lighter. I think that if they're gonna have a lighter series, it shouldn't be set in a Star Wars period called the Dark Times.
Yes, you're absolutely right, man. And it's like we should see more of the Empire's reign and how badly it's affected everyone living in this world.
I understand your complaints. Rebels isn't a perfect show, but I think for the characters and where the characters are at, it's still the dark times, but it's not where the characters are. Like, everything around them could be dark, but the stuff we're seeing from the characters isn't necessarily dark. But yeah, it's not a great show, but I still love it. I still love it as much as the Clone Wars.
It's so different than like that of Rogue One though, and I mean, they're set like almost. They're super. They're gonna overlap, like, or they were supposed to originally.
Yeah, and they feel like different. They like the tones are so different, and that shouldn't be the case. Like, you go and watch Rogue One, and it's obviously the events that the characters go through is really bad, and because that's their consequence because of the events. But in Rebels, they go through bad stuff, but bad things don't really happen to them.
I think that the villains in it are really awesome. Like, the Inquisitor is really cool. His backstory is amazing, and I wish that some of the characters' backstory and like who they are was as strong as the villains. Because Thrawn is great, Maul is great, and also in Defense of Rebels, Twin Sons, Obi-Wan Kenobi is perfect, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I do not hate Rebels, and I don't want anyone to listen to this and get that impression from it. I just think like there are parts of Rebels, like I said, that I absolutely adore, and there's glimmers of just brilliance, and then it's just I have to watch 5 episodes of stuff that is boring and that I don't care about, and that's repeated, and then it's like just to get to that one moment of awesome.
Yeah. And you know the 2003 series, the Clone Wars, like the Legends one now, that was really short, and I think what makes that Clone Wars so good is because it doesn't sacrifice anything for anything. It tells the story in about, 4 hours? I think it's like a 4-hour series.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I think because that's quite a dark show, considering I was like very young when I was watching that. I think that's why it's so great, that one.
Yeah, I like that one. It sacrificed a lot of the filler episodes for just straight story and plot. And I would argue, though, like, you get a lot of the Clone Wars episodes that are just bad or just, like, boring. There's a lot of Jar Jar episodes in there. There's a lot of stuff with the younglings, like, from Season 3, that's just, like, boring, which expands the lore, but it's still kind of boring, which you also get from the Rebels. So it would just be really interesting to see if the reverse, where we could watch the Clone Wars live, like we are with Rebels live, and see the comparisons. I think there's a lot of not that great episodes of the Clone Wars. Even though I love that show, there's a lot
That's
of
a fair
not so great
comparison
stuff that people are ignoring just because it's so long ago compared to Rebels, which is in the present.
That's fair, but I feel it's like the opposite, honestly. I feel like every once in a while you'll get like a real stinker with the Clone Wars, but most of it's really good. And like the character of Grievous in the Clone Wars is just the most inconsistent thing I've ever seen. That's another topic that we could really get deep into, where it's like he's completely different than in Revenge of the Sith than he really is in the Clone Wars. Like, why is everyone so afraid of Grievous at points, and then at the same time it's like Ahsoka is going toe-to-toe, and Ahsoka's powerful, but she's still a Padawan.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I would say she was going toe-to-toe. She was defending herself, and then she fled, but okay.
Dude, she's like fought Grievous a few times and gone like, it's done really well. She's done really well. She fought him in Season 1 and got away. Season 1 Ahsoka.
I've seen Legends Grievous. He's a monster.
Oh,
you can't have that kind of monster for the Clone Wars, where you have to have these characters live to a certain point.
I agree with that, but Grievous is taken to such an extreme in the Clone Wars, though. Such an extreme.
I agree. Yeah, I'm not defending this Grievous.
The Gungans take out Grievous in the Clone Wars. You cannot get worse than that.
Yeah, I think that wiped that from my mind.
Yes, it's like you like switch arguments. It's like now I'm attacking the Clone Wars kind of, and you're like defending it. Yeah. But I just think like the Clone Wars Grievous is unforgivable. I'm sorry, just like the inconsistency with that character is crazy. I feel like they just went so far in the other direction. The Revenge of the Sith and Son of Dathomir Grievous is like that middle ground where the character of Grievous should be.
Yeah, Son of Dathomir Grievous was really handled very well. Yeah, I like it.
Yes.
I think that's the best portrayal.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then Grievous is even good in like I'm blanking on the name. Dark Disciple. Grievous is good in Dark Disciple too.
I love that book. Great shout out. Created by Christy Golden, who's also writing the Inferno Squad book. That's a very great book.
Wait.
Yeah.
And if you guys didn't know, Janina Gavankar, who is playing Iden Versio in Battlefront 2, well, she's actually narrating the audiobook, so if you pick that up, it will be extra special.
Oh,
Which
yeah,
is really cool.
I heard that. That's awesome.
So cool. Yeah,
I can't wait to
Everybody get those books. Get those books.
Anyway, back to Grievous, though. It's like, I feel like with the Clone Wars, they tried to overcompensate with him. Like, you can hear them talking about how the Grievous just being a monster doesn't fit with his Episode 3 depiction. And that's because in the Clone Wars series, that was made before Episode 3 was made, and there were alterations being made to the character of Grievous. But I feel like to compensate for that, they went completely in the other direction with the Clone Wars, where the Gungans are beating him, where Ahsoka beats him a few times. Like, and that's something else that just bugs me about the Clone Wars, the biggest thing, to be honest.
Yeah, same here. Like, I much prefer Legends Grievous to Canon, because, like, let's have a look at the 2003 Clone Wars. Like, in that series, he's basically Darth Vader of the Clone Wars. He's just this enforcer who he's like a killing machine, and he's so scary.
He is scary. And I understand why that is. I just really like Legends Grievous. Legends Grievous could go toe-to-toe with Vader. I'm not saying that he could beat Vader, but he could definitely give him a fight.
Yeah, like, and with the character as well, it's the same kind of archetype. He's like the same role for that era, anyways. But in canon, in the Clone Wars, you don't really get that, which is such a shame.
I've never once been afraid of Grievous in the Clone Wars show. Never once. Never once did I feel like anyone was in any like crazy danger with him, like characters that I cared about. I never thought Ahsoka could be taken out by Grievous at any moment. It's just the inconsistency with him is insane.
I would argue that one episode, like you said, like characters you don't care about, which makes sense. But the layer of Grievous episode in the Clone Wars.
Oh, you're gonna bring up Nadar Veb.
Yeah, like a lot of people, not a lot. Like I think one or two people get killed in that episode. I like that episode. It's kind of like a little horror episode for Grievous, where they walk into his own home. And I like that, even though that is the same episode where I think is Ahsoka in that episode. I don't think
no, she's not.
But yeah, so you get an awesome Kit Fisto versus Grievous fight. That's one episode I can remember that I liked Grievous's portrayal.
Yeah, but that again goes with the inconsistency, though. It's like Grievous goes head-to-head with the council member, and the council member is forced to flee, but like then the next episode or episodes later, it's like back with the Gungans thing, and like Ventress beats him on Dathomir. I remember being so excited seeing that like preview, and I was like, Ventress is going to finally fight Grievous. This is going to be awesome. And then it's like, sure, and Ventress just whoops him, and it's just like, which makes sense for the depiction of the Clone Wars Grievous, but then like, I don't know. It's fine. That's all I have to say. It's fine.
They should have made Grievous kind of like how they do Darth Vader in Rebels, where Darth Vader is done so well in Rebels Season 2, where he's kind of like this figure where you go up against him and you're going to die. He almost killed Ezra, and he almost killed Kanan. He could have easily done that, but he didn't. And he should have that for Grievous. They should have swapped out Grievous and Ventress in the Clone Wars, where Ventress was more of a general figure who fought the Jedi on regular events than Grievous, who could come up in like season finales or season premieres.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, like it should have been a big deal when Grievous showed up. You know, things were about to get real when he did.
Yeah, Anakin would be like, "Oh shit, yeah, that would be awesome."
I completely agree with that. I just think Grievous seems more like the mustache twirler in the Clone Wars than anywhere else. I mean, he's just not threatening. I mean, when you get deeper into the lore of Grievous, I actually like the backstory more of canon Grievous than I do in Legends Grievous, because in canon, if you guys don't know, like he completely submitted to all of the alterations because he was denied training as a Jedi. He wasn't Force sensitive. He wasn't tricked into it. which is something that I prefer. But at the same time, I just feel like that backstory even just doesn't fit with like this ruthless killer.
Yeah.
I just think like Grievous should have been like, as far as power, I think that the perfect area for Grievous is like Darth Maul. Like, he's not quite Dooku. He's more powerful than Ventress. He's like Darth Maul tier of a fighter. I think that that's where he belongs.
That's a fair comparison. Yeah.
But it, like, I know that we've just complained hugely about Grievous in the Clone Wars now, but I want to like bring up stuff that I like about the Clone Wars too, which is again like Darth Maul. Darth Maul's awesome in the Clone Wars. There's a lot to love in the Clone Wars.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah,
Clone Wars has some
absolutely.
very great moments, yeah.
Anyway, so we got completely off track from what we were gonna do.
Yeah, we can just skip to Twitter questions now.
We should answer one Twitter question. So,
Okay.
Legacy, it's up to you.
Okay, I'll go for this one. Okay, so this question comes from Brett GB on Twitter. He asks, "What is your favorite lightsaber?" Now, this could be for any reason you want, whether it looks cool, absolutely anything.
I've talked so much, so one of you guys go.
Okay,
I love, maybe because it's so recent, I love Kylo's lightsaber. I'm a huge Kylo Ren fan. Kylo Ren's lightsaber is so unique and versatile, and you see him use it so well in The Force Awakens when he uses it against Finn, the two prongs on the side. I forget what those called. Cross guards on the side. I love Kylo's. Anakin's is a safe pick, but it's one I grew up with. I have that lightsaber at home. And then third, I would have to say Count Dooku's. I love that unique, what's it called? That unique bend to it. It's very cool.
Yeah, for me, it would have to be Anakin's lightsaber. Just considering how much it's been through and how it's been passed down for the generations, it's basically legendary by this point. I just have a lot of emotional resonance with that particular lightsaber.
If that lightsaber breaks, I will cry.
Somebody brought that up the other day too. Like, what if it breaks in The Last Jedi or something bad happens to it? That would break my heart. That'd be crazy.
That would be
don't
like
think it's
losing
going
a
to happen,
character.
Basically, yes. I don't think that would happen. but
Take
it could be a
Rose,
good
not the
chance for-
lightsaber.
No, don't touch Rose.
You like Rose already?
Already, dude. I like Rose. She looks so happy. I hope she doesn't die. I hope Phasma doesn't kill her.
Take BB-8 before you take the lightsaber. How about that?
Yeah, I just don't want The Last Jedi to become overcrowded with new characters.
No, there's like 3 new major characters. There's Laura Dern's character, there's Benicio del Toro, and then there's Rose, which I don't think that's very many to worry about at all.
Yeah, but like, surely Poe could have taken Rose's role. Like, obviously I don't know the story, but surely, right?
I think Poe would be mainly with Leia and then Rose.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. There's going to be like three kind of plots going on, which are, from what I see, really, or 4. You got like the Kylo Ren stuff, and I think he's going to bounce around with each one. Did he just woo? Through Skype, that sounded like really weird. Like, but you got like the Kylo Ren stuff. Then you have the Luke and Rey stuff, which is going to be the bulk of it. Then you have the Leia, Poe, and then Finn and Rose, and that's kind of what I see. So you have like 4 plots going on, and I think Kylo's going to bounce around in between the other 3 plots, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so too.
You think so? I don't think he'll encounter Finn or Poe at all.
You don't think he'll encounter like Leia and Poe? Maybe no.
Nope. Maybe in the third act. Maybe. I don't want to be like 100%. I think in the third act he could come across Leia, even though I thought that would be like an episode 9 kind of thing. But I think the big bulk of his arc is going to be with Snoke, the First Order people, and then Rey and Luke. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I can totally see that. For my favorite lightsaber thing, going back to that,
Oh yeah.
I really do like Kylo Ren's lightsaber is my favorite lightsaber as well. If you follow me on Twitter, you know it's like on my house key. You know I have a Kylo Ren keychain. It's just everywhere. It's all over my house, like the crossguard lightsaber.
Yeah, the backstory is so cool too.
Yep. with the ancient design and the cracked kyber crystal.
Malachor.
So that's my favorite one. If I had to pick a second favorite, it would be Darth Bane's, just because like I love the whole concept. I love the way it looks. It's like curved and it's described as being weightless, which is just...
I love that description. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a weightless lightsaber, which is really, really, really rare. And it's like said that it's super rare because it's not... Because lightsabers are said to be really, really heavy. You have to be really strong to like swing one with one hand, or at least that's what like Mark Hamill talks about, or like really complains about now with George Lucas, and how he like watched the prequels and everyone's like using one hand and flipping all over the place with them. But anyway, lightsabers are supposed to be heavy, and I really like that it's just so different than that, and it's really rare, and it was gifted to Darth Bane. I love that lightsaber. And then, of course, I love Luke Skywalker's lightsaber in Return of the Jedi. Like, that's a green lightsaber, and I've talked about before, as a little kid, I watched the original trilogy first, and I didn't know that a lightsaber could be green. And it was just so different and cool. So those are definitely my top 3 lightsabers. It's the Crossguard, Bane's, and then Luke's.
Yeah, great list.
So those are mine. I think that just about covers everything, right? We got everything that we have time for.
I think so.
Do we have any final closing thoughts that we want to talk about? Do we want to briefly touch on like when we think the next trailer will be for The Last Jedi? Just because we're at like 50 minutes right now, we might as well like try and push it to an hour.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think the next trailer, so the first thing coming up for Lucasfilm in general is D23 and Comic-Con. I'm not sure if Star Wars is confirmed to go to Comic-Con yet, but they are going to D23, and I think that's where we're going to get a lot of Last Jedi footage, even more than we probably would have a week ago because of the Han Solo stuff. I think they're going to push the Last Jedi material. So we could see a sizzle reel for The Last Jedi. I do not think we'll get a new trailer there. I think our next new trailer is going to come around August, maybe even September and October. But yeah,
sizzle reels are always like super like awesome though for Star Wars. Like if we remembered, the last sizzle reel revealed to us Darth Vader in the Bacta tank for Rogue One.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I mean it was better than that sizzle reel they had at last year's Star Wars Celebration, which was pretty bad.
What, the Force Awakens one?
No, the Star Wars Rogue One, where they did it like 3 times in the stream. It was very weird, but yeah, they just didn't reveal that much. They revealed like the directing and all about whatever. But I think for The Last Jedi, we can get a good sizzle reel, probably confirm a few plot points or whatever, but no new trailer at D23.
I believe it was just confirmed that Mark Hamill will be at New York Comic-Con. Do you think that he could bring some footage with him there?
I doubt it, because it's not as big as San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's like the little brother.
Yeah.
It's like San Diego, then New York. I'm going to say that there will be a trailer at D23. I'm going to say yeah.
Okay.
I definitely think we'll get something. I don't think it will be a trailer, like a full teaser trailer or a trailer. I think we'll get some reveals regarding the third anthology film, because Kathleen Kennedy has been saying that we're gonna find out fairly soon from the past months. So we'll definitely get some reveals, but I don't think we'll get a trailer.
I think they're gonna really drop a huge information bomb as well, because they don't want us talking about this Han Solo debacle anymore.
Yeah, I think the same. I think they'll reveal something that gets us talking about that instead of the Han Solo business.
So what do you guys think about potentially a third anthology film? Like, if they're gonna announce it, we might as well like put our final bets in on what we think it's gonna be, if we want to do that.
I have absolutely zero clue. I'm just gonna say what this isn't happening. Don't get me wrong, this is not happening. But I'd love to see like an Old Republic film. It's not happening, but I don't know.
I would freak out.
For sure. I mean, there'll be no doubt. It has to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's been like, I for sure think that's been number one, even on Lucasfilm's minds. The fans have been asking for it. It'll create a general great applause for it. It's what people want. There was a list that came out. I forget. I think it was Star Wars News.
Yeah, Star Wars Newsnet.
Where they said there was 3 topics for anthologies. Number 1 would be the Obi-Wan Kenobi film, which everybody wants.
Is Boba Fett still on the list?
Exactly.
Yeah, the Boba Fett film.
That was number 2, which I'm not a huge Boba Fett fan. A lot of people are.
Josh Trank was going to do a Boba Fett movie, though.
Exactly.
It's all but been confirmed.
Yeah. So they've been working on it. In this one, they said instead of going just Boba Fett, which I wasn't a fan of, they were going to make it more of a bounty hunter film with Boba Fett kind of playing that central role, probably. So it'll just be more of a bounty hunter kind of heist kind of film. And
that sounds awesome.
That sounds awesome. I'm not super excited about that, but it sounds better than just a Boba Fett movie as standalone.
Or a Han Solo movie.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the 2 main ones.
I'm going to say, like, I think that there's still a possibility it could be like a bounty hunter movie. That sounds awesome. But Obi-Wan is also likely. As far as which one of those that I would want more, I mean, like, those both sound really cool. Because villains are selling recently. Like, villains are selling. There have been some... Suicide Squad was really, really successful, even despite not getting good reviews. And I think that's...
Not a good movie.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not very good. But because it's villain-centric, I think that people like that, and it's different. But...
Well, yeah, it's like we're not villains in day-to-day. Well, at least not most of us, so it's a change.
Yep.
But I think a bounty hunter movie could definitely be really cool, especially since they probably have a lot of material for it. And they even at one point had a director for it, like a Boba Fett movie. But I want an Obi-Wan movie. Like, that's going to be so cool.
Quick question, though. What era do you guys want the bounty hunter film to be at? Because I was talking to somebody on Twitter, I think it was at Behemoth, and he wanted a bounty hunter film set after Return of the Jedi, where there's a lot of contracts going out for like these runaway Imperials, and sometimes bounty hunters are fighting other bounty hunters. It could create a very cool dynamic, and it's an era we haven't really explored yet. In the
is this after Aftermath?
Yeah, during and after Aftermath. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a really cool dynamic because everything's a bit unstable in this era.
Exactly. Yep.
That sounds cool. Because what they'll do, because they're not going to have, like, the bounty hunters be, like, the villains of the movie. It's going to be like Suicide Squad was, where it's like the villains take down a bigger villain. It's going to be like that. That's a great point, because they very well could be commissioned by the Empire, or you know what it could be? It could be like that the bounty hunters are playing both sides, and it's like someone commissions the bounty hunters to steal something from the Empire. I can totally see that happening.
That'd be cool too. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll get a bounty hunter movie eventually, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we know the Boba Fett bounty hunter film was happening, so it's definitely going to happen at some point for sure.
And I believe in one of the drafts for Rogue One, one of the early ones, like bounty hunters were a big part of it.
Yeah, that was a heavy rumor for it, yeah, early on.
Yeah, like, I think it went like this. So the Empire, after Rogue One stole the Death Star plans, they would have commissioned a group of bounty hunters to go and track them down and locate them.
Mm-hmm.
Something along those lines.
That was just, like, not at all a plot point of the movie, though. So that might have just been a rumor, so...
I think it was just fan rumor.
Wow, that was crazy, because I remember hearing, like, the Darth Vader is going to get the bounty hunters, and the bounty hunters are going to be the main villains, and then it's like, they don't get the Death Star plans till the third act. Because, like, I remember for a lot of the early stuff with Rogue One, it's like, they're going to get the plans the first act, and then the whole movie is going to be like them trying to keep the plans. But do you guys remember that stuff?
I don't remember hearing that. No.
That was just so far off. And then, like, some of the stuff with Star Wars, it's like they're kind of close with it, but then not at all.
I'm glad some of the rumors don't turn out to be true, because I remember one of the earlier rumors for The Force Awakens was chopped off Luke's hand holding a lightsaber in space, and it was like,
yes.
That is real. That is a real thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't that official though? Weren't they gonna do that?
Yeah, they were gonna do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they axed it. Thank God, because that sounded stupid. And then Then you get the whole rumors like maybe Rey could be part of Luke's cloned hand.
Oh.
Yeah, 'cause it would fall onto Jakku. It went like this. The movie would start with Luke's hand in space with the lightsaber. It'd fall onto Jakku, and then I guess Maz would find it. I'm not sure, but that's all we know. I think.
Sounds awful.
Wasn't there like concept art of like them wearing scuba gear, like Luke Skywalker in scuba gear?
Yeah, that's what he said at Celebration in 2005. He was like, I saw a concept of Luke and Rey in scuba gear. It's quite funny.
Wow. There was like one concept from The Force Awakens that I kind of liked. It's like Rey was in like a starfighter, and with like the lightsaber, she was like cutting open like a Star Destroyer. That's pretty
really
cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know how it might look a bit over the top in live action, but it could be cool if
It might look like, you mean like Ezra fighting on like a
Yeah.
Star Destroyer.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And he's like,
Which
I
is
don't
cool
have a
scene.
jetpack, and it's just like, oh, just shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's something that was happening. I remember, like, to be fair though, they did that in the Clone Wars a few times too. With like the Jedi having to fight in space and stuff. Although it's like one of my favorite moments from the Clone Wars when Plo Koon goes out and he's like, I can only do it for a few minutes. That was pretty cool. So that's our last predictions. So just to like summarize some things up, Evan, you think that we will get a sizzle reel, or that we might? Legacy, you think it's just going to be like an information drop? Am I correct on those two?
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll get the third anthology film revealed at D23, and I think we could get a sizzle reel for The Last Jedi, like a behind-the-scenes video.
And I predicted that there would be a trailer, just be different. Or I hope that there is one. Like, do we remember when the main trailer was for The Force Awakens?
Like the official one?
Yes.
That was
April?
at Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, like April 15th, I think.
But that
So
was
is
Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so it was around the same time as The Last Jedi, which is why I think they're going to do it kind of like the similar rollout for The Last Jedi trailer. But yeah, The Last Jedi, or The Force Awakens main trailer in April. Then we had The Force Awakens sizzle reel at Comic-Con, dropped by J.J. Abrams. And then they had a third trailer, October or August, for the Monday Night Football stuff.
All the way in October?
Yeah, that was the main trailer. That was like the official main trailer.
Because everything else was a teaser trailer.
Yeah, they were teasers.
I don't think I can make it to October, guys.
Nobody can.
No, but we will definitely get a teaser by August. I think that's a certainty.
I hope so. We need more Star Wars stuff. Like, this whole week is just like, there's been nothing. There's literally been like nothing. Like,
I just want to get away from the Han Solo stuff. I want new stuff.
Yeah, I want to get like we had the Vader comic that dropped this week, and then what else? Like last week there was like Snoke's Royal Guards leaked or something like that,
Yeah.
which we didn't touch on. Originally, there were reports that the Knights of Ren would be Snoke's Royal Guards.
Yeah, it turned out not to be true. So Snoke has his own royal guards, but he also has Kylo Ren in charge of the Knights of Ren. And I think we could see more of the royal guards compared to the Knights of Ren in The Last Jedi now.
I want to
Which
learn
is
more about the
sad.
Knights of Ren, dude.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to have a huge part and role now, which is such a shame because they are so cool.
They're such a cool concept. And then, like, the Acolytes of the Beyond turning into the Knights of Ren, and, like,
Yeah, I
all the
really
stuff
hope
in the
so.
last Aftermath book where it's, like, Snoke is, like, reaching out through them, and they're, like, getting these visions of ancient Sith Lords, and they're, like, touching ancient Sith relics and getting, like, flooded with visions and putting on masks and building masks and fighting with lightsabers. So cool.
See, that's another anthology film we could have. Even J.J. Abrams brought that up. Like, he wants a Knights of Ren anthology film. Maybe he was saying that because he knew they weren't going to be touched on to a certain degree in The Last Jedi. So it's like, there's a lot of lore. They have a lot of background probably behind the scenes, but probably just won't get touched on a lot in The Last Jedi.
If we get a Knights of Ren movie, I will be completely
Oh my
blown away.
God.
I see a
That
comic
would be
book
amazing.
series as, like, a possibility.
That would be cool. Comic book or even just a novel for Knights of Ren.
Do we briefly want to talk about the Vader comic, like just a little bit, what we
Sure.
kind of think of it? I know we're only 2 issues in. Next issue is how I'll really get a feel for it. I said it in like my video on like Vader hunting down the Jedi after Order 66, but I feel like the first issue was great, and the second issue could have been summed up in a few panels.
Yeah, the second issue felt like filler to me until that really cool page, which is an amazing introduction to the canon. With the Barish Vow.
Oh, we need to talk about that on another podcast, like Luke.
Yeah, that was a great info dump. I love the first Darth Vader issue. I wouldn't call the second one filler because you would still have to know what happens in issue number 2 to know what happens in issue number 3. So it's kind of important for the story. But yeah, I see what you mean. Like the
It
first
just felt a bit over
couple
the
10
top and,
pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole action sequences felt over the top just to show Darth Vader strong and just to cover a few pages. The only important stuff was at the very end with the Barish Vow and him hunting down, deciding which Jedi to hunt down and stuff like that. That was really cool.
I feel like it could have been like a few panels in the second issue, and it's like, droid, send me the data on all remaining Jedi whereabouts. And it's like, yes, sir. And then blah, blah, blah. This one is like, oh, he took the Barish Vow, blah, blah, blah. And then he hunts him down and fights him. Second issue, done.
Yeah,
Totally,
you could have
totally.
like left it on a cliffhanger there.
But like I said, I really like the art in it. It was cool to see Darth Vader fight with a green lightsaber. I wouldn't say that's something that I've really necessarily wanted to see from a Star Wars thing, but it was cool to see him wield a green lightsaber and then just kind of drop it.
Yeah, it took me out of the comic for a second. I was like, it's kind of weird, but it made sense for Vader, who just doesn't care either way. But it just took me out for a second.
I actually like that moment because it shows his loyalty to the Emperor at this point in time. Because he's like, how easy would it be for Vader just to take that lightsaber and then make it bleed and then like go back to Palpatine and stuff? But this just, I like that it shows the loyalty to the Emperor, and that's what it was there for. That's why it had the whole image of him dropping the lightsaber.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
And moving on, so I like that part. I like that it shows his loyalty to the Emperor. And briefly, I want to talk about one of my major worries for this Star Wars comic. And I kind of brought it up to Evan before, and since I've been talking a lot, if you want to like kind of explain this major worry.
Yeah, you're thinking that since he went in issue number 2, he had to go decide which Jedi to kill because of the Purge. There's not that many Jedi. So the worry is this series not going to showcase Darth Vader killing off the Purge? I mean, killing off all these Jedi, going on this Purge for like 18 years, where Darth Vader was in his prime. You're worried they're not gonna showcase that at all. They're just gonna show him getting his lightsaber.
Not only just showcasing it, but like cutting it out of the canon. Like, that is my biggest fear, because Darth Vader hunting down Jedi in Legends continuity is one of, if not my favorite period in all of Star Wars. Because he's constantly fighting Jedi, and he's constantly killing Jedi. Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader, he's like fighting 8 Jedi in the finale. And then in another comic, he's like hunting down Jedi to find the whereabouts of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he fights like Anya Kuro. Who else does he fight? Other notable Jedi. I'm blanking on a few of them. But he fights like Anya Kuro, others. He's really sadistic. You guys will see I have a video planned of one of Darth Vader's most sadistic moments that he actually does to one of the Jedi. And I might as well just talk about it here since we're like at the hour mark. So if you're staying, you might as well get a sneak preview. But he actually at one point kind of convinces a Jedi to kill themselves. He like tricks him. It's really dark.
Which one was that?
His name's Gira.
Gira, that's it.
Yeah, Darth Vader kind of tricks Gira into killing his own apprentice, and then Gira like commits suicide because of it. And there'll be a whole video on this, but anyway, it's just really dark, and one of my favorite parts of Star Wars. And with that line of dialogue in the new comic where it's like all of the Jedi are gone or something like that, or most of them are gone, and there's only like a select few that haven't gone into hiding, my worry is that Darth Vader is not going to go exterminate all of the remaining Jedi that like the clones are going to. And that's just a really big, like, and to be fair, it has not happened yet. It's just kind of a worry that I have that they're going to retcon such a great part of Star Wars.
That's a fair criticism. I want to reread what the author Charles Soule said about the comic in general, because maybe he talks about that. But that's a fair criticism. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope this first arc is him finding his lightsaber, then going on the hunt for other Jedi. But yeah, it can go either way.
What do you think, Legacy? I know that we didn't really talk to you much about this beforehand, but what's kind of your like thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm on the same page here. That is worrying, and I don't think it's gonna happen. But if it did, I'd be so upset because it's one of my favorite parts of Legends and that era. And after all, like, Vader isn't known as the Jedi killer for nothing.
Yeah, Vader's job in Legends was to hunt down Jedi. And I don't know how I will feel if at the end of canon, General Grievous has more Jedi kills than Darth Vader.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, so he finds his Jedi probably around issue number 5 or so. Let's say that. There's still so many issues after that. I can't think they're going to waste other parts, just him twiddling his fingers or something. Like, he has to go kill other Jedi, I think. Or do some other missions involving Jedi.
I really hope so. I mean, because I think that if the Jedi Purge was that successful in canon, like, that's kind of a disservice to the Jedi as well. But, I mean...
Yeah, you're right.
And like I said, this is just a worry that I have, a concern. It is not a criticism yet. Like, that it hasn't happened. If it does happen and Vader does not kill Jedi, and it doesn't have to be exactly like Legends, but just, like, give us a few Jedi kills, like, because that's what Vader was doing. And if you want to read a book about that, I really do recommend The Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader. That's a really great Legends book. But I'm just kind of, like, it's a little bit concerning that he might not have, like, that he might not be hunting down Jedi, and just a part of Legends that I really, really adore and that I want to see a different depiction of in canon. That's just kind of something that I wanted to address.
Yeah, I hope it's similar because it's one of my favorite parts of Legends. Just make it the same for all I care.
Yeah, for sure. And I've liked a lot of what they've done in canon, and it's definitely different than Legends. We're definitely going in different directions, good new directions. But that's just something that I wanted to bring up, and something that I would love to hear your guys' comments on in the comment section down below. I want to hear what you guys think. So yeah, that's basically all I have. Is there anything else, or are we pretty much good?
I'm pretty good.
Yep, I'm good.
All right, awesome. Well, if you stay tuned, if you have been watching for this long or listening for this long, rather, we really, really do appreciate it. We're thinking about doing these once a week, so hopefully they're really good just to, like, put in your pocket and you can go lift weights, work out, or, like, do some work. And I hope that you guys enjoyed. Again, this has been the Rule of 3 podcast with me, the Stupendous Wave, and Evan and Star Wars Legacy. Again, if you have questions that you would like to see answered in future podcasts, we did focus heavily on one in this. You can do hashtag RO3 with a capital R and just tweet them out. My Twitter is at Stupendous Wave if you guys want to plug your Twitters real quick.
Yeah, you can find me at HarrisEv9. I'll be on Twitter. I like to talk Star Wars with everybody, so see you guys there.
Yeah, same here. You can find me on the SW Legacy on Twitter. Will there be? I think there'll be a link in the description anyways.
Yep. So that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. May the Force be with you. And as always, have a great day.